Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Kevork Almassian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's live streaming. I appreciate you all, whether you're watching this stream on YouTube or on Rumble. Today's stream is exceptionally going to happen at 7 p.m. Central European Time, 1 p.m. Eastern American Time, because as our friend Johan has been saying, Salam, how was your driving test today? It wasn't a test yet. It's still like a training. So I had the opportunity to drive 1.5 hours last Saturday, and today I had another 1.5 hours of driving in the streets here. And as you may know, I'm old enough to know how to drive, but there are certain regulations and very strict regulations, let's say, here in the country, and one minor mistake could make you fail in the exam. So I'm going to this training session. I think I have to drive around 5 hours or so. And after that, I go to the exam to get a German driving license, which I am able to drive in entire Europe. So I think this is probably the next 2 or 3 driving lessons could be also at the time of my live streaming. I will definitely keep you posted if I'm going to postpone 1 hour or 2. I'm not going to the gym today. Because I wanted to do this live streaming. I think this is more important to inform the people what's going on around the world. And I see that some people already is criticizing Joe Rogan and how I trust him. I don't trust Joe Rogan. I don't trust anyone, basically. The other day when I was on Neil Oliver's podcast, he asked me at the end of the conversation if somebody from this, influencers, let's say, bubble, if I trust someone or somebody gives me some optimism, or if I look up to other personalities. And I was very honest with him, and I told him no, because I'm 37 years old now, and I came to the realization that every time I trusted someone's, let's say, intellect or someone's integrity, it seems that the integrity is not always lasting. Because this is, if somebody has an integrity today, maybe in a year or 2 or 3, they could lose it, or maybe they have some life-changing events happening in their surrounding, or some political events that make them or push them to take some, I would say, emotional positions. For example, Jordan Peterson, you know well that I was somehow touched by his previous story that he was hospitalized, and his teachings about masculinity. Every man sometimes look upward to get some advice, for example, from a male figure, right? But then you see how it goes with Palestine, Gaza. Everybody disappoints. Even Norman Finkelstein disappointed me, for example, when he sided with these so-called rebels, CIA-backed rebels in Syria. And then Chomsky disappointed me when he sided with the Kurdish separatists in Syria and called for the US Army to stay as an occupation force in Syria to protect the Kurds. And then he even called for some crazy restrictions during the Corona era. So no, even left or right or centrist, all these intellectuals, podcasters, influencers, call them whatever you want. I don't trust someone like, because I watched some of their episodes, but we're discussing here ideas. And at this point, it seems, because Joe Rogan has become one of the, people who endorse Donald Trump. He has close ties to Elon Musk and the other, let's say, conservative, pro-Trumpist MAGA people. Some of them are libertarian like himself. So they are raising this voice against Joe Biden for giving the permission for Ukraine to strike deep inside Russia using American long-range missiles. But in this particular case, as I have explained previously, these weapons, Ukraine is incapable of operating this type of weapons. Therefore, they need the direct participation of the American satellites, GPS, including NATO, of course, and also the operatives, the American operatives on the ground who are operating these weapons. Imagine like Russian operatives are in Cuba, and they're using Russian satellites, and they're the ones who are setting up these missiles and firing them against the United States. The US will not tolerate that, and it will consider it direct Russian participation in an act of aggression against the United States. So this is the parallel that I was trying to draw. But now that everybody is pushing against, and when I say everybody, those are the NAFO fellas, all this Western, let's say, establishment journalists, so-called intellectuals, think tankers, and also the politicians are attacking Joe Rogan for calling what the real situation is in Ukraine, and that is Biden is pushing Ukraine to the point of no return in order to sabotage any diplomatic effort by the upcoming Trump administration to be able to de-escalate the situation in Ukraine. Now I'm going to show you a short video that I made today, and it's going to be posted, edited tonight on my personal X account. So if you like to follow me on X, you can find me just on my personal name, Kevork Almassian. And I'm going to post this edited on my personal account. But this is a commentary video that I made. It's a 4-minute video about this particular case. Let's take a look first. Sometimes I truly wonder if people are conscious of the grave danger posed on humanity after the Ukraine war. I keep hearing people telling me on social media platforms that I shouldn't be worried of a nuclear war because the Russians are bluffing. But last week, when the Russians fired the Oreshnik, the intermediate-range ballistic missile capable of carrying a nuclear warhead, this was a warning against NATO countries. Now, the people who were promising us that Ukraine will win this conflict in a matter of few months, and then they told us it's just a matter of few more tanks, and then just a matter of few more howitzers or F-16s, and now it's just a matter of few more long-range missiles and Russia will lose this war, right? But the Americans are not giving the Ukrainians enough long-range missiles to deter the Russians. And they're incapable of producing enough missiles anyway. So while you escalate to a point of no return, and at the same time you put Ukraine in a very volatile position, then you're harming the Ukrainians because you're not guaranteeing their victory. And at the same time, you're escalating this conflict to the point of no return. And you are claiming that this is all about freedom and democracy. I think nobody in his sane mind believes that this is a war between tyranny and democracy. Nobody believes that Ukraine is a democracy itself. Everybody sees what Ukraine is about. It's a geopolitical conflict. It's about the Black Sea. It's about the suppression of the Russian rise. It's about dividing Europe and not allowing Russia and the rest of Europe to have normal relationships and new security architecture, because then European countries will not need NATO any longer, right? It's also about the minerals. Trillions of dollars worth of minerals are in eastern Ukraine. Voila. This is something that Lindsey Graham keeps bragging about. And when he met with President Zelensky, he was very clear about it. And he says, thank you, President Zelensky, for doing our fight. Now our soldiers should not have to die for these minerals. And these minerals are very important for our economy. He said, for our economy, not for the economy of the Ukrainians, for the American economy. I truly hope that there would be same people left in Ukraine and de-escalate this conflict and try to realize that at the end of the day, they have to come into certain terms with the Russian side, because victory is impossible. And those who say it's possible, they mean a nuclear war, because Russia cannot lose a war without a nuclear conflict. And I'm not here talking about my wishful thinking. I'm analyzing this situation. So these analysts who are telling you that victory is possible against Russia without a nuclear war, they're not telling you the truth. And these people, especially the politicians and the officials in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere in this NATO headquarters, they will be hiding in their bunker if some very dangerous scenario occurs. And please remember that it's us paying for this war from our taxpayer money. It's not from the money of these politicians. And at the end of the day, their money, all these billions that they're recycling in Ukraine and coming back into their pockets, they're getting richer, we are getting poorer. And if a dangerous escalation happens, they will be hiding in their bunkers and we will be the ones paying the price. So think about it. So, dear Sarah, if you waited a little bit longer for the video to come to an end, you wouldn't have called me naive. Because Ukraine is definitely a geopolitical conflict, of course. I have explained that in length. What is it about? The Black Sea and separating Russia from the rest of Europe. And secondly, it's of course economical. And let's remember that only a year before the conflict in Ukraine, the Americans have withdrawn from Afghanistan, where they basically recycled around $2 trillion for the past 20 years. So they needed a conflict to continue recycling money. And so they provoked Russia for this invasion so that they continue this type of operations. And this time it's going on in Ukraine. And let's also remember the bankers in the US, for example, BlackRock, and also the called the Vanguard. Those are very, I would say, influential and very powerful financial entities. And they're investing in Ukraine at the current moment, buying land, real estate, and buying basically in entire exclusive rights for so-called reconstruction process in the future, or potential reconstruction, let's say. So yeah, they're buying Ukraine. The politicians are buying, the military-industrial complex is buying Ukraine, and also these bankers. And Zelensky is their middleman. It's the guy, it's the handler, it's the guy who is just giving up every inch of his country, some of which is going to Russia because they're losing the battles on the ground. And also he is selling the rest of the country's infrastructure, sovereignty, fuel, gas, energy, and also these minerals. So we're going, of course, to focus a little bit in this stream. You don't have to be sorry, Sarah. It's just something that some people call meetings or start evaluating before the end of the idea. You know, that's why I just ask people to listen to the end. And then if they have a criticism, no worries about that. So we have also trillions of dollars of minerals and also agriculture, because in Ukraine, you have one of the best wheat as well. So it's a multifolded, let's say, strategic conflict in Ukraine. And from the American side, they see if Russia succeeds in Ukraine, then this is definitely going to be the end of the US empire as an absolute superpower, because then Russia will have to put its hand on trillions of dollars worth of minerals, which will be, of course, shared with China. So they see this as a truly existential conflict. That's why personally, I doubt and I suspect, or I doubt, let's say, that the Americans will back down even under Trump administration. There is a serious deep state interest in Ukraine. That is why this escalation that is happening now in Ukraine, by giving Ukraine the allowance to fire these ATACMS against Russia, this is not Joe Biden. This is the deep state is pushing Ukraine to the point of no return, because they want to sabotage any potential de-escalation efforts in the future. So in my opinion, Trump, even if the deep state didn't escalate in Ukraine, he wouldn't have ended the war. He even if he wanted, he didn't have the potentials and the powers to do that. But even if he wanted to do it, now they are cutting the way, in front of Trump to de-escalate, at least for de-escalation. They don't want de-escalation in Ukraine. They don't want de-escalation in the Middle East. And potentially they want to open a third front, and this time in Taiwan. But if there are any Taiwanese people watching this, I hope they seriously, because people sometimes do not really learn from the experiences of other people. For example, I keep blaming the Armenians in Armenia for not learning from the experiences of Georgia and Ukraine, for what this accepting and adopting the color revolution societies, and the infrastructure is being converted into more neoliberalism, for example, and how the inflation is going upwards, and how they are selling their sovereignty to foreign powers, and especially the bureaucrats in the EU, etc., and also becoming a pawn in their hands against Russia. I always argued that Armenia, Georgia, all these countries, Ukraine, they, of course, it's a very good thing to have a good relationship with the West, but at the same time, they don't have to antagonize Russia, where they are either former Soviet Union countries or they have close, let's say, a proximity to Russia geographically, or cultural, religious, let's say, societal ties between these countries. I don't understand why Armenia has to antagonize Russia. Can Armenia match Russia? No. Can Ukraine match Russia? No. Can Georgia match Russia militarily? No. So poking the eye of the bear like this is just a provocation that it's a counterproductive for the country, counterproductive for the people, and counterproductive as a country, as its existence, right? Armenia's existence nowadays is in jeopardy because of this serious geopolitical mistakes, or some people will even argue that they are collaborating basically with NATO to deconstruct the Armenian nationhood and just turning it into another pawn, and this time against Russia, just like they did with Ukraine. So if we go back a little bit to what Joe Rogan said in this case, and why we are focusing on Ukraine today, because this could potentially lead to world war. But now you see that all these influencers, for example, like this Drew Pavlo is a guy with the Ukraine flag and also Taiwan flag in his bio, so you know what type of activist he is, and he supports, of course, Israel, the United States, and all the all the countries that you suspect. But he's supporting liberal democracy, he's opposing fascism, but at the same time he's supporting Israel. Anyways, so Joe Rogan had this commentary. Let's first see what he said about Zelensky and Biden.
The world we're living in now, and that's LA, and that's New York, and that's a lot of places that got fucked up by incompetent people.
I don't know. I just feel safer knowing, like,
pull this microphone.
I feel safer knowing that Trump is in office.
I do too.
I feel great about it. Like, I just like.
What I don't feel safer is right now they're launching missiles into Russia.
Yeah.
How are you allowed to do that when you're on the way out? Like, the people don't want you to be there anymore. This should be like some sort of a pause for like significant actions that could potentially start World War III. Maybe that would be a good thing that we would like to avoid from a dying former president.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole thing is nuts.
I mean, look, I don't know shit about politics.
Zelensky says Putin is terrified. Fuck you, man. Fuck you people. You fucking people are about to start World War III.
So basically he's cursing Zelensky, and he's calling like F you people, like he's talking about Zelensky and Joe Biden, but they of course took this out of context, mischaracterized it or misrepresented it, and now they're saying that Joe Rogan is basically attacking the Ukrainian people and calling them fuck you people, like in Ukraine.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Russia fired a missile today.
I feel like
they fired an intercontinental ballistic missile for the first time ever. It's the first time one of those has ever been used.
It's insanity.
It's fucking insanity, because those intercontinental ballistic missiles can have nukes on them. This one didn't, but if it does, the whole world changes, and it changes because of the military-industrial complex, and it changes because of the money that's going to Ukraine, and it changes because the outgoing president or whoever the fuck is actually running the country is decided to do something fucking insane.
I mean, look, he's right here. He's saying he doesn't say that it's Joe Biden himself. Maybe there are other people taking this decision for Joe Biden, and I truly believe that is the case. That's the case. There are people with influential centers of power in the United States. They're the ones pushing for this war. Joe Biden doesn't even remember what day we are today. He doesn't know if it's Monday or Sunday or if it's Tuesday. I would not believe at all that Biden is taking these decisions. But like trying to portray this like, oh my God, look, Joe Rogan is terrified. He's, calling him a pussy because he's terrified of a nuclear conflict. These people are completely insane. These people who live in these capitals with their IMAX and sitting and bragging about their, supposed heroism on social media platforms, they can't even fight an MMA fight, right? It's like even if you put them in front of Joe Rogan, Joe Rogan could eat them without a salt, as we say in Arabic. But these people, because they don't know what is how to fight, they have never been in a fight before. They are not physically capable. They're not going to go to war to fight for the Ukrainians. And now they're calling other people, sorry to say, pussies, because they are worried about nuclear conflict. You should be worried about nuclear conflict, of course. I'm worried. I live in Germany and I'm worried about a nuclear war. Like, it's like, why wouldn't I? It's like, are you fucking crazy? Of course I'm worried. Of course I'm terrified. Of course I don't want for a nuclear war to happen. Do you think like I want to die from a nuclear bomb? Of course not. I still have a life ahead. I'm married. I want to have kids. I want to take care of my family. I want to do this and that. Why do you think like I would be so unterrified to die by a nuclear conflict because of some fucking people in the US who want to do billions and billions and billions of dollars, and then they will hide in the bunkers, and then us going to pay the price? No, I don't want that. Why is that even a controversial thought? I don't want to die from nuclear war. Sorry. It's crazy, man. Sometimes people like, oh, why are you pussy? Why are you afraid of a nuclear war? It's like these people have even brains. We have to check it inside of something. It's crazy, man. And then you have some Ukrainian boxer. He is challenging Joe Rogan for a debate on Joe Rogan's podcast. And so this guy is Klitschko, and he was he's a boxer for heavy boxing champion from Ukraine. I mean, respect for your career, of course. I have nothing against you, but I think you're politically completely ignorant. Look, what are his points basically? And he wants to go to Joe Rogan's podcast and debate him. Take a look.
Joe Rogan, I listened to your latest podcast. I'm sending you this video to let you know that I disagree. You talk about these American weapons being sent to Ukraine, which you believe will lead to the Third World War. So let me tell you that you're repeating Russian propaganda. Putin's Russia is in trouble, so they want to scare you and people like you. His war was supposed to last 3 days. It has lasted 3 years, thanks to the heroism and sacrifice of us Ukrainians. So you're using the only weapon that Putin really intends to use, propaganda. And this weapon...
Guys, that's the only weapon that Putin intends to use. It is propaganda. It's not the missiles, okay? So don't confuse, okay?
Really weakens our democracies. Putin's Russia wants to destroy Ukraine quietly. They want America to stay quiet, not great, but quiet. A great America is not an America that abandons countries that defend freedom with their lives. In short, you see, I have quite a few points of difference. If you invite me on your podcast, we could discuss them like free men.
Can you imagine this guy in 1 minute video? He made multiple points according to him, which he made no points, basically. There was like legitimately speaking and objectively speaking, he made no points, 0 points made. He didn't push against the arguments of Joe Rogan at all, because Joe Rogan is speaking about the dangers of the nuclear war, and Russia has used multiple of these missiles which could carry nuclear weapons, but this time they weren't. But this guy truthfully believes that this is the only weapon that Putin can use is propaganda. And secondly, he also believes that this is somehow a conflict between democracies and the tyrannies. So if Russia wins this conflict, then the tyranny will not be normalized in Europe again. You know, if this guy is serious, if he truly believes this, then of course he is completely brainwashed. But if he is just making these points to attract the attention of Joe Rogan, I think that if he comes to Joe Rogan's show, he will make a fool of himself. I mean, Joe Rogan is not an expert on Ukraine, but I believe that if he sits like some of the commentators, I think one of the commentators says Dave Smith, he would completely lose this debate. And you don't have to have a referee. The people could judge. I mean, I know that the world is nowadays completely polarized and people are like, they're going to be pro-Russian or pro-Ukrainian, whatever the guest says. But deep inside, if you are truthful to yourself, you will know that this guy is not making any points against this. And when we speak about a nuclear conflict and all this talk about, don't be afraid, it's not going to happen, this and that. I mean, the United States used an atomic bomb, 2 of them, right? Against Japan. Who would have expected back then for the US to use such a atomic bomb? And back then it was unprovoked and unnecessary to use 2 or drop 2 nuclear atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki and killing around 200,000 people. It was completely unnecessary. The Japanese were retreating, and this was a message for the Soviet Union. So don't really underestimate the dangers of this, because remember, it's not only about a decision. Like, it's not, a nuclear clash can happen due to a miscalculation, due to a human mistake. So underestimating it and saying, this is something completely irrational or unrealistic, it's false. And this is not only a narrative that has been published by, let's say, such influencers, but also politicians. For example, this is just a literal translation of an article from the German NTV. And if you see the date of this is from May the 2nd, 2022. So just at the beginning of the war on Ukraine. This is Merz. This is a politician in Germany, a very senior one, and he is leading the CDU, the Christian Democratic Union now, who this party was the party of Angela Merkel. And now this guy will highly likely become the next chancellor of Germany in the next elections. And look at what he says here. It's crazy the way they portray such things. And this is like 2 years ago, right? Or 3. He says, the CDU party leader, Friedrich Merz, defended arms deliveries to Ukraine. The CDU chief is not afraid of a nuclear war with Russia. I'm not afraid, but of course we all worry and worry. We don't want the war to expand. So he's not afraid, but he's worried. Make it make sense. Anyways, he says that here that the delivery of heavy weapons to Ukraine is therefore of fundamental importance. We want Putin's attack to be stopped with these weapons. That must be the first goal ever. So 3 years ago, you argued that you're not terrified of, you're not afraid of a nuclear war, but you're worried. Okay, let's make it make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. But at the same time, you said and you argued that the arms deliveries to Ukraine will stop the attack on Ukraine. So have these weapons stopped the attacks on Ukraine? No. Have the Russian forces retreated from the territories that they occupied since 3 years? No, they expanded. And they captured more territories. So if this strategy is not working, isn't it maybe more rational to see other options? So look, it is attributed to Einstein, who said once, the insanity is to repeat the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right? So if you're going to repeat the same things and only increase the amount and the quality of the weapons, but at the same time, look, if you're going to give Ukraine everything it needs to win against Russia, and by winning, this also includes nuclear weapons, because without nuclear weapons, Ukraine cannot win against Russia. And you know that quite well, that you cannot do that and you will not do that. And even on a deterrence level, so you're not giving Ukraine enough weapons to deter further attacks from Russia or occupation of further territories and annexation of further territories. Right? You see the results on the ground. You had high hopes in the last summer's counteroffensive, and it miserably failed. And you can see that these tactics and military strategies have failed. The political strategies have failed. Even the financial and economic strategies have failed. The sanction regimes have failed. So at least you have to see what options do you have. But all the other options mean for these politicians that their strategy has failed, and they are too arrogant to accept and acknowledge and confess that their strategy has failed, so they have to look for other options. So they're just insisting on the same mistakes and increasing the pace and the level of the escalation into the point of no return without actual profits for Ukraine itself. in terms of its strength and deterrence powers, or overall a country as a functioning country. Because today, if these Western partners stop giving Ukraine financial aid or military aid, and stop giving them all this hardware and technicians, and even paying for the pensioners in Ukraine, right? If they stop it, Ukraine will fall. So they have turned Ukraine into a non-functional failed state. And were it not for this direct military, financial, logistical, intelligence support, Ukraine cannot survive even if the war stops tomorrow. So you didn't really help Ukraine here. You really harmed Ukraine to the maximum level. Tucker Carlson was, this week he hosted a former CIA officer. I just want to make sure that I'm saying the name correctly, because sometimes I forget. Her name is Amaryllis Fox Kennedy. So she's a former CIA officer, Amaryllis Fox Kennedy. And basically, what we're going to see here is just a 1-minute video. But in this 1-minute video, Tucker Carlson is basically reading one of the tweets of this former CIA officer. And every word in this tweet, in my opinion, or this post on X, is factually correct. Take a look.
So this is a tweet from me. I don't normally read people's tweets, but in standing with Ukraine, the Biden-Harris administration convinced them, Ukraine, to abandon a peace deal that would have ceded only half of the territory that Russia now occupies. And for that opportunity to lose twice as much of their homeland, they paid with tens of thousands of innocent lives. We did this to control the 11 trillion of minerals under the Donbass. We did it to grind down the Russian war machine on the grist of Ukrainian teenagers. We did it to hand out hundreds of billions of dollars to U.S. hedge funds who are, as we speak, carving up rights to Ukraine's fertile soil and vast mineral resources. The truth is the United States has never stood with the people of Ukraine. That is simply a jingle, an ad campaign broadcast to those who have never been there, designed to sell taxpayers on the appeal of prolonging war for profit. We have cost Ukraine her territory. We have cost Ukraine her children. The war hawks and the bankers are no friends to Ukraine. Whoa! I was applauding as I read that.
So, why do you think that some of you guys said she's RFK Jr.'s niece, RFK Jr.'s daughter-in-law? Why do you think Tucker Carlson has taken this anti-war position? Let's say, is it genuine? Because he is still, I believe, part of the establishment, and he has been very long, let's say, a journalist serving the narrative of the interventionists, right? What happened to Tucker Carlson, in your opinion? Is this a new trend in the US because this is the mood, the general mood in the US? Is he genuine? Is he legit? I've been really interested. Just keep it respectful, because I'm discussing here someone like Tucker Carlson, and I don't like to personalize it, but I'm really genuinely interested to know why he has taken, even on Israel, right? He's one of the very few that who called it a genocide and taken a position like, why we're giving all this money to to Israel as well. But at the same time, he's also supporting and endorsing Donald Trump, who is one of the biggest Zionist presidents going to be in the near future. His entire administration is basically neocons and Zionists, right? I really don't understand. Are they a psyop? Are they trying to, keep the people who are anti-Israel, in a place where they continue voting for Donald Trump or for whoever they like them to vote? I don't know. I am not saying that's the case, but I'm just raising some questions. I want to know why Tucker Carlson has taken this bold and good, let's say, position on COVID, on Ukraine, on Syria, on Palestine, etc. If you thought this can't get any worse, I'm going to show you a video of Lindsey Graham. This is the biggest psychopathic sociopath in the world, in my opinion, and he deserves to be, in the ICC soon. And he visited Ukraine in September 6th, 2024. So this was like 2.5 months ago. And he made himself a video with Zelensky, basically, and he's bragging about the importance of Ukraine. And he's basically saying that Ukrainians are dying for us, for the Americans, and they're doing a good service for us because now we don't have to fight the Russians. And then we have to keep all these minerals, trillions of dollars worth of minerals, that is the underneath of Ukraine. And these minerals are going to be amazing for our economy. Not the economy of Ukraine, for our economy. Take a look what he said here.
I'm here with President Zelensky. I am such a admirer of what you and your country have done. You're trying to stop the Russians so we don't have to fight them. They don't want any American troops. They just need the weapons to free their country of a terrible invasion. They're sitting on $1 trillion worth of minerals that could be good to our...
He's just standing, Zelensky is standing next to him like a good boy. And he's literally telling him that you guys are dying for us. And then you have minerals, etc., etc. Take a look.
Of a terrible invasion. They're sitting on $1 trillion worth of minerals that could be good to our economy. So I want to keep helping our friends in Ukraine. We can win this. They need our help.
Yes, we need, and we have already, the biggest help is the support of American people and support of our friends, thanks to Lindsey and his colleagues, to congressmen and senators from the United States. Thanks for this support, bipartisan support. Thank you so much.
Peace is coming.
Yes, soon.
It's so embarrassing, and I'm not even Ukrainian, you know? Like, they're treating him like a lapdog, basically. And he's standing next to him. It's quite obvious from his body language and who is the master, who is the boss, right? It's quite clear. And these people are psychopathic sociopaths because they are ready to sacrifice basically hundreds of thousands of people, human beings like me and you. Regardless of what you think about Ukraine as a country's foreign policy, please remember that those hundreds of thousands of people who perished in Ukraine, probably they didn't have a choice. Because they were conscripted and sent to the front lines. Probably they were forced to go and fight, and probably they were believed because of the propaganda machine. Probably they believed in the cause, right? But regardless, there are hundreds of thousands of humans like me and you, and they died. In the discourse of this conflict, they told us the Ukraine is going to win the war, and they're still recycling the same propaganda over and over again and sending more Ukrainians to die. But the footage coming from Ukraine, despite all the, the censorship, and the people are terrified to post such videos, but they're sending out of Ukraine, and other people are basically publishing, and you can see on X, if you go to X and just type forced conscription or Ukraine, etc., and you will see all these videos. People are like terrified and running for their lives, and they don't want to join the army. And then you have this military personnel in Ukraine. They're brutalizing them, kicking the shit out of them, and forcing them to go and join the army, right? So remember that not every Ukrainian, because if you're pro-Russian, you may think that those Ukrainians are somehow evil. No, they're not. Many people died. They don't want to die. They don't want to fight their Russian brothers. And many people were forced to fight. Some people were brainwashed. Please remember that these psychological operations are so effective and impactful on so many people. Some people are victims of this propaganda, right? I give no pass to the people calling for the continuation of the war. If Ukrainian or not, and you're sitting outside of Ukraine and you're just calling for more escalation, Ukrainian or non-Ukrainian, I don't give any pass to you. But these young men going to their basically imminent death, those are poor people. Those are just ordinary people being sent to the meat grinder. So I feel really sorry for them. Now, since we're speaking about the minerals, I will show you a map. This is published by Forbes, basically. Those are the minerals Lindsey Graham keeps referring to, are overwhelmingly in eastern Ukraine. So if you check this map, you will see that the darkest areas of these minerals exist basically in the Donbas region. So between $3 to $4 trillion of minerals here. And the rest are, again, like $200 to $800 billion. And, it's a huge swath of territory that includes trillions and trillions of dollars. So, of course, the Americans know it. And the Americans don't want for the Russians to have access to these minerals. and of course giving them also to, or selling them also to China, which is their direct rival in this, let's say, international system. But what are these minerals? Like, we keep hearing about minerals, but what are these minerals about? Just to give complete, let's say, credit, this is published by a page on X called Morgan. The handler is at Chase00 or 00, I don't know, M. So this person published the minerals. So deadly ambitions, the West's pursuit of Ukraine's resource wealth. And I just want to show you just a few things. What are these minerals? Just want a little bit do this. Yes. So first of all, we have the titanium, right? The titanium or titanium, I don't know how you guys pronounce it, depends. So titanium. So we could use titanium in the production of aircraft, missiles, and naval vessels due to its high strength, low weight, and resistance to corrosion. So it could be applied to aerospace components, armor plating, naval ship hulls or hulls, and missile casings. You have uranium. It could be used in the production of nuclear weapons and as fuel for nuclear reactors, which can be part of naval vessels and submarines. We have manganese. Manganese can be used, it's an essential in steel production, providing strength and hardness. It's used in the manufacture of armored vehicles, ships, and weapon systems. We have the iron one. The iron one is the primary raw material for steel production, which is crucial for manufacturing a wide range of military hardware. It could be applied to tanks, artillery, military vehicles, ships, and infrastructure. We have graphite. The graphite could be used in the production of advanced battery systems, which are essential for modern military equipment and as a lubricant for various weapon systems. We have also rare earth elements. Those rare earth elements are critical for producing high-tech weaponry, including precision-guided munitions, radar systems, and electronic warfare equipment. It could be applied for motors and generators, alloys for high-strength materials, and components for advanced electronics. Aluminium. Aluminium, while not extensively mined in Ukraine, aluminium is used in aircraft and missile construction due to its light weight and strong properties. And I think this is finally nickel. Nickel is used to create strong corrosion-resistant alloys for military application, and copper. So there are many, many things. This is zinc, of course, lithium. Just the lithium, I think it could be utilized in the production of batteries, particularly in electric vehicles, smartphones, and portable electronic devices due to its lightweight properties, high energy density, and efficient conductivity. So you see, those will be definitely used by Russia and China in producing advanced military hardwares, and also other types of high-tech technologies, basically, right, that could be used for civil purposes. And in this environment of this competition for who is going to produce the most advanced weaponry, you also need the materials to produce this stuff, right? So, of course, there's going to be huge competition, including about smartphones, including about smart cars, and all this stuff that these materials could be used in this production. And as you see that China is outproducing all these Western, let's say, electric vehicle companies. And if they put their hand over these materials, such as lithium, then it's already game over for the US empire and its economic dominance around the world. So I think this is the case that we have to seriously think about before judging and talking about Ukraine. I'm sure that all these so-called pundits, they don't want to show you and tell you that this is the core of the issue. This is why there is war. This is why hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands of people are dying in the discourse, because these politicians and these officials and the bankers and the military industrial complex are from all sides. For Russia, it's also a motivation, right, to have an access to these markets or to these materials. So in the discourse, hundreds of thousands of people die. Oops. Instead of sitting and discussing with diplomatic means and deciding some common ground between these powers and sharing, because I think these minerals are enough for the world, but sometimes it's this, we're living in a very greedy war that these people have. The other day I was watching a comedy show, and I just want to give a shout out. I'm sure most of you do not know him because he's an Armenian stand-up comedian, Vahe Berberian. And he says, basically, I'm paraphrasing him, he says, your stomach, he has such an intelligent way of telling you that you're full. Like if you eat more than your capacity, your stomach starts telling you, like, bro, it's full, like I'm getting sick, like he starts sending you signals that you're full, basically, right? Some people realize they know him. So your stomach has more intelligence than these politicians, because he says that these politicians, they keep eating money, because in Armenian we say, like, you eat money, meaning like you're storing lots of money, but they don't feel like they have had enough of this money. There is no any intelligent organ in them telling them, basically, that you've had enough money, so why do you need more? If you have 1 billion, why 2 billion? Why 3 billion? Then why 10 billion? What are you going to do more? Because this is the nature of humanity. It's greed. I don't think someone who has a $1 billion who wouldn't be happy to have 2 billion and say, why 2 billion? No, they always seek to have more. This is the nature, especially now. Like, imagine this is just the normal person. Now, put this in the context of such a big conflict where there are trillions of dollars in Ukraine. So you see why this Ukraine war is very terrifying for me, because I see that there are people who are ready to go for nuclear Armageddon, and they prefer that instead of giving China and Russia the access for these minerals, and eventually the creation of a multipolar world, and even probably a world where the United States is no longer a superpower, So it's very dangerous. So don't listen to these people telling you, don't be terrified, Joe Rogan is a pussy, this and that, Those people are fooling you. And I'm terrified. I'm not saying if I'm terrified, you should also be terrified, but I am terrified about such scenarios. So we have just a few things, guys, to show you today. Very, very interesting, actually, since we're speaking about Ukraine, but there also what's happening in Palestine is still ongoing, and with the ICC thing. This time, Germany is coming to the conclusion, finally. They say Germany won't arrest Netanyahu because of its Nazi history. Germany has suggested that it will not arrest Netanyahu if he travels to the country because of its Nazi history. A spokesman of Olaf Scholz, the German chancellor, suggested the country would not carry out such an arrest due to its history and unique relationship with Israel. He says, I find it hard to imagine that arrest could be carried out in Germany on this basis. Now we have crazy things are happening in Europe. Imagine the former French ambassador to Israel. So this guy basically served France represented France in Israel. He criticized Germany, and he says, rightfully so, basically, France's former ambassador to Israel has condemned Germany's potential refusal to abide by the ICC arrest warrants for leaders in the Israeli government, calling it the collapse of all Western pretensions. 100% true. He also urged Berlin to not say a word about human rights, humanitarian law, and international justice. In a latter post on X, Arad stated, "We are witnessing the West committing suicide live, and that the refusal of some to heed the ICC arrest warrants is a moral and political shipwreck that is breeding ground for all authoritarian powers. Do they know what is happening in Gaza?" I 100% agree with you, and I will just add something. I believe that these conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine, they have accelerated the demise of the international system that people, basically the victorious sides, have established after World War II. So this post-World War II international system that we used to know until 2022 and 2023, I think this has come to an end. And it is coming to an end. It's a gradual, but we can see the acceleration of it. Because once you build an international system and you create a justice system, right? Because you have rules and regulations, and then you have courts that are responsible in enforcing, or at least bringing the people who are violating these international rules and norms and regulations and laws to accountability. So if you have an International Criminal Court and International Court of Justice, and both of them are basically one issuing arrest warrant against Israeli officials, and the second says that there is a plausible case of genocide in Gaza, right? And despite these rulings and these decisions, if the Western countries that claim to be the champions of this rules-based international order themselves saying we're not going to abide by these regulations and by these decisions and by these rulings, then they are shooting themselves in the leg, because they consider themselves the police of the world for at least since the end of World War II. And they're the ones who keep preaching and telling people that how human rights work and what rights they have to accept and normalize in their own countries. And they were raising fingers and imposing sanctions on other countries because they're not enough humanitarian and they don't respect human rights and humanitarian law, etc., right? But once this Palestine conflict started again, and this so-called collective West, and I mean, some of them are not directly supporting Israel, most of them, but particularly the US, Britain, and Germany, they have been giving consistent support to Israel diplomatically, politically, in the UN, militarily, economically, financially, everything, right? Intelligence, basically. So it destroys everything that these people have claimed to be championing, international law, right? So we're heading to a very dangerous situation, and in a place where Gaza and Ukraine have accelerated the demise of this international system. But for an international system to be destroyed, it could also bring with it certain conflicts or extra conflicts or more conflict. So I'm worried, I don't see that the world is going to be, I don't see a change in this international system without a direct confrontation or a war between the collective West and the opponents of the collective West, or the opponents of the so-called rules-based international order. Maybe what's happening in the Middle East right now is already this conflict. I don't know, but my senses, something in my gut feeling says that these people in the US, they're not going to accept without direct clash with the bigger powers like Russia and China. I hope I'm wrong, because that would be excellent. But I don't see them giving up their privileges in a peaceful and just in a peaceful way like the Soviets did after the fall of the Soviet Union. I don't see that they're capable of doing that. I think that they're ideologically driven. I think that they're arrogant. I think that they're radical. I think they are very extreme in their views of the world. I think that they're militaristic. I think they're psychopathic. I think very ill of them. And that's why this terrifies me. So those are the reasons why I'm terrified. And just to make things even worse, we have the largest billionaire, or the biggest billionaire in the world, Elon Musk. He's retweeting Benjamin Netanyahu, accusing the ICC of being an anti-Semitic. So why would Elon Musk retweet for Benjamin Netanyahu? This person is literally accused of committing genocide in Gaza. I mean, even from just from an opportunistic perspective, right? From the perspective of someone who cares about his businesses, why would he do that? Like, seriously, this is something that I posted today on YouTube as a post. I'm also posting some posts like this, like short opinions on my YouTube community section. Like, I'm just saying simply, media advisors for Elon Musk should warn him that endorsing Netanyahu's absurd claims that the ICC and ICJ are anti-Semitic could tank his image and future business ties. Netanyahu and his team are accused of committing genocide in front of international courts. This isn't a small controversy, it's a global reckoning. I truly don't know, like, why Elon Musk, what do they have something on him? What's happening? I really don't know. I truly don't know. But accusing everything as anti-Semitic has become so tiring and so predictable. We have this page now called Stop Anti-Semitism, which I blocked them because they just make people their job is basically just slandering people. And this is a brochure they have published. Basically, they say it's time of year again. Vote and help us crown the 2024 Anti-Semite of the year. Some nominees might even be proud to make this infamous list. So they're basically publishing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 names, and they're asking people to vote. Basically, I just want to check if there is a voting here. Seriously, there is a voting, man. You add your first name and second name, and you just choose and pick the anti-Semite of the year, and then they will publish it probably on the new year. So they're basically publishing the names of Hassan Piker, Cory Bush, John Cusack, Greta Thunberg, Jake Shields, Bassem Youssef, Dan Bilzerian, and Candace Owens, Jackson Hinkle, and Yes Natal. I only know Jake. I know Greta. I don't follow John, Bassem Youssef, Dan Bilzerian, Candace Jackson. The rest I don't know. I just for fun, I'm going to vote in this. They want my name and my email. It's required. I'm not going to give them my name and my email. I wanted to see what are the results. If they are already, some people are advanced on the others. It's crazy. It's crazy. Anyways, I think this is we are living at a time where calling each other names is the simplest things to do. Guys, as you're watching this live streaming, I would truly appreciate it if you hit the like button. That would be an amazing support to my work. Around 800 people watching this. Elon has ties to CIA and Palantir. Whitney Webb, yes, you're correct. Klaus, I think I wanted to have Whitney Webb recently on my show. I want her to come with another guest, so 2 guests together. I'm still working on it. The Last American Vagabond and herself, I think that would be a great combo to speak about all these cases. So if you guys want to see Whitney Webb and The Last American Vagabond and a Syriana Analysis, hit the like button, as we say. I'm on it. I'm talking to them. I just need a little bit of time to finish this because it seriously takes so much time to prepare the live streaming, and then I have to send emails and this and that. It's really lots of work. Some of you the other day told me that I have to have, or just a suggestion, like maybe I should have some regular guest on my show, an expert who is coming regularly. And to be honest with you, I'm very honest with you about this. I thought about Tarek Chiril Amar, the historian. He's amazing, and I have a really good chemistry with him. So during the discussion and debate, we always have, chit for a chat. I really like his insights and his brilliant analysis. And also Marwa Osman, she's amazing friend and great analyst as well from the Middle East. I'm not sure yet. I didn't talk to any of them. This is just like, I can't even say between us because this is already on live streaming. But I thought about these 2 names, Tarek Chiril Amar and Marwa Osman. But I am to be very honest with you. If I'm going to collaborate with someone regularly, myself, I don't accept to exploit and use someone else's time and effort regularly without paying him or her back. I don't accept that personally, because if somebody wants me to come regularly on his show, I also expect some ransom or honorary or something, because at the end of the day, time is very, very important. And you have to know that, like, preparing such a live stream, it takes hours. It's not like this, I just go and speak. I plan everything, put the structures and the topics I'm going to speak, read, and also think of what I'm going to say. So if I'm going to use someone regularly on my show, I want to pay this person. So if you want to see this type of content, I encourage you also to become a patron. That would be amazing. There are links in the description below. You can see, you can either become a premium member of YouTube on my channel, or you can become a patron. And when I have enough, let's say, people, because I have to pay these guests on monthly basis, then yes, of course, I would love to do that. And I think that would be a great value for me. So if you're interested in that, definitely check the description below for ways to support Syriana Analysis. But until then, guys, this is all for today. We're going to meet tomorrow, Tuesday, again, 5 p.m. Central European Time, 11 a.m. Eastern American Time. Peace be upon you, upon your families. I wish you the best. Salam.